Good evening, friends. On behalf of COW, let me welcome Dr. Sugandhi Iyer. She is a senior medical legal expert as well as a hospital administrator as a qualification. She is an alumni from State GS Medical College and KS Hospital, Mumbai. She currently is working with PD Hinduja Hospital, Mumbai as the deputy director. Apart from being a medical legal expert and a senior at it, she is also the NABH principal assessor and has been faculty for various workshops in NABH. She has contributed to publications and chapters in books pertaining to legal aspects of healthcare and has been convener for the medical legal cell of AMC, that is the Association, Indian Medical Association, sorry, IMA. In fact, she would be the right person to talk about this particular topic that we have at the end of the this particular session. The topic is the top 5 common mistakes in the hospital setting and their legal implications. Who better than having a administrator as well as with the experience of being a senior medical legal expert to talk about this. Over to you, ma'am.
At the outset, let me sincerely thank the CAHO. I got the invitation through Dr. Suvin Shetty and also Dr. Anuradha Pichumani and Dr. Lalu Joseph. And it's wonderful that this quality association is also exposing everyone to the legal aspects for quality assessment. When we do, the aspects of law has to be taken into consideration, and that has to be imbibed along with the quality for the hospitals. So it's wonderful that CAHO is going into this sort of a discussion. Now, having gone through all the courts of law, whether it is civil, criminal, including Supreme, I would now, and also as Dr. Shetty said, with aspects of hospital administration, I would go into what the way I feel over the last 30 years, I've been looking into this aspect, the prominent causes of litigations which have been let in the court, and this I would rely upon various judgments and the various which has come from the various courts of law, especially those regarding the medical negligence. The first and foremost is the eligibility, that is the credentialing and the privileging of the doctors. Now, very often when we appoint the doctors, both the Indian Medical Council Act as well as the Code of Medical Ethics 2002 clearly states with their section that we have to have on our roll call for the medical care, we need to have the allopaths, a person with a minimum qualification of an MBBS or a postgraduate degree or diploma with an equivalent has to be appointed by the hospital to render care to the ailing in the hospital. The second thing is that apart from the qualification, who has the right to practice? It is very clearly depicted in both of them that the license to practice is equal to qualification plus registration. Therefore, just possessing a qualification does not give the license to practice the specialty. It is very important that the registration of the degree is there. Very often we see that the person may have passed MD, the person may be a cardiac surgeon, but the registration of the particular qualification and the super specialty is missing in the under the particular for the particular doctor, and therefore you are entitled to practice only what you are registered. So if a person is an MBBS and an MS and has done the cardiac surgery but not registered for the same, he is entitled to practice only general surgery, and only when he gets a registration for the particular super specialty can he claim that he is a cardiovascular surgeon and he can practice in the same. And the Code of Ethics further says that to be a specialist, you have a special qualification in the particular branch. For example, if you are an MBBS and MD, you can claim to be a cardiologist provided you have a DM or any other equivalent super specialty in the particular branch. So these are the basic norms as the bare law lays it down. And though the Code of Ethics clearly says, which is part of the Indian Medical Council Act, that you have to display your recognized degrees, one cannot display all the diplomas and other things, etc., which are not recognized by the various schedules. Hence, only what is included in the schedules should be displayed in the consulting room, in your prescription, in your rubber stamp, etc. These are the most important things about eligibility. For the hospital is clearly vicariously liable if they employ people who are not qualified appropriately, who are not allopath qualified, or who are permitted to practice without the necessary specialty and without the necessary registration. This is the commonest thing. For example, I laid down few Supreme Court judgments in Dr. St. Louis and another. In this case, this doctor was just an MBBS, but there was a board of a gynecologist which she had conducted a lot of deliveries. But one delivery went wrong, the patient died, and in this case, the doctor and the hospital was deemed negligent that without possessing the particular degree, she was doing the surgery for the gynecology and delivering babies. Now, this is bifocal. It is not only the doctor who is going to be held criminally negligent for not possessing a qualification or practice as a particular specialist without having a registration in the particular field would amount per se, as per the law goes it. One doesn't have to go into the merits or the demerits of the case. One doesn't have to prove the damages. One doesn't have to go and argue that by the case there is no negligence in the particular outcome of the case. Even the particular outcome of the case is okay, but the very fact that the person is not possessing the qualification and is practicing per se, by the fact of law, the case can be easily, the doctor and the hospital can be liable. Therefore, just on the point of law, an advocate can win the case without the doctor or the advocate going into the merits and the demerits of the case. So therefore, in such cases, the doctor would be criminally negligent and the hospital vicariously liable for employing and keeping on the roll call such doctors. In Savita Garg versus National Heart Institute, which speaks clearly of the vicarious liability, in this judgment, the Supreme Court has very clearly said that the hospital is the person, or the hospital is the entity who is appointing the doctors, the nurses, the attenders, etc. Therefore, if the doctors are not qualified, if the nurses are not qualified, then is the hospital who is fully being aware that they are not qualified or not being licensed to practice is employing them, and therefore the vicarious liability goes on the hospital. And in these cases, it is for the managing directors, the CEOs, who become ultimately liable for the same, and the hospital therefore is tainted to task. So Savita Garg judgment, which speaks about vicarious liability, clearly throws the garland on the neck of the hospital. In Jagat Narayan versus Achal Sipaha, in this particular judgment of National Commission, a patient during dialysis died. The patient relatives went to the court. In National Commission, the doctor was practicing as a nephrologist for the last 30 years in the particular hospital. He was an MBBS and an MD, and he did not possess a specific qualification in nephrology. And therefore, just because he was a plain MD in general medicine, the National Commission held him negligent for putting up a board as a nephrologist, and the hospital for permitting to practice as a nephrologist. In NIMS versus Prashant Dhanuka, which is very famous, wherein a general surgeon, a chest surgeon, opened up a young 16-year-old boy for the shadow shown in a lung, and during the process of surgery found that it was a schwannoma which was coming from the spinal cord, which need to be removed and dissected from the spinal cord, and he had not involved a neurosurgeon till the last minute, till the nerve damage had been done, the spinal cord was cut, etc., and the patient had suffered paraplegia. Only then the neurosurgeon was involved. There the Supreme Court clearly held the doctor negligent as well as the hospital negligent, vicarious, and awarded more than 1 crore of rupees to this particular patient, because in this case there was a cross speciality wherein the particular speciality was not involved. Therefore, on the grounds of crosspathy, wherein you have today mixopathy, you have Ayurvedic doctors, the homeopathic doctors, Unani doctors being employed by hospitals, and the hospital gets liability for this mixopathy, wherein these people prescribe the allopathic drugs. So that way the liability comes. And also another thing is cross speciality, wherein one speciality practices another specialty, as in Lakshmanan and Dr. Paul, wherein the ENT surgeon, because the anesthetist was not there, He felt he could do the sedation and a mild anesthesia, did the ENT tonsil surgery. The patient died after 2 days, and the court held him liable that he is giving anesthesia without having the qualification on of an anesthetist. And in Uttam Sarkar also, the pediatrician who had done multiple deliveries felt she's competent enough to do multiple deliveries. In this LSCS case, where she had also given the anesthesia, because people feel anesthesia is everybody's job. Any surgeon can give anesthesia, any physician can give anesthesia, but an anesthetist job is a very complicated one. It is equal to an automated pilot, wherein you have to have the vigil. There is something known as masterly inactivity, but you need to enter immediately for the sake of monitoring. And anesthesia is a separate branch which liability. And then in this case, both the doctor and the hospital was held liable. And today, when we go to the NABH, the 5th edition clearly mentioned in quite a few objective elements that you need to have MBBS doctors in the HCO, SHCO, etc., including at entry level. So when we come as the job of assessors, if the hospital does not have enough number of MBBS qualified doctors under the 5th edition, it is a big issue. So this is also as per the law. So NABH is as per the law. The next number 2 is documentation, which all of you all are very well aware that documentation says if you have done something, it is for you to document you have done it. For evidence in a court of law is only by a documentation. And when you document, it means you have done it. And even if you have done it, but you have not documented it because you don't have the time, or for whatever reason, you felt you need not document, and the patient and the relatives are not going to fight, you feel you have done a good job in your personal rapport and communication. No, it is not the done thing. You have to document, and documentation has to be complete. In Dinesh Jaiswal versus hospital, a very famous hospital, 7-star hospital, wherein an aneurysm was taken up, it was dissected and again re-explored, and after 5 weeks, the cardiac surgeon was away in USA. Gangrene has set in, septicemia, and then the amputation was done. Ultimately, the patient died, and the patient relatives went to court. This was a national commission wherein it was seen that consent for all the 3 surgeries was missing. Daily notes by the cardiac surgeon was missing. The national commission president said, yes, CVT surgeons are children of God. They will never document, but at least give the nurses notes that their CVT surgeon had seen the patient every day. To the utmost surprise, this was in 2009, even the nurses' notes was missing. And this was within the standard 3 years by which MCI guidelines clearly says that the record should be presented. And this is the first judgment which made that nurses' notes are part of medical record. So on these grounds, there was negligence on part of the hospital and the doctor. In the second one, Katarai versus M Hospital, wherein it shows that discrepancy in records clearly goes against the hospital. In this case, the patient was taken for surgery. Within 5 minutes, the patient had an arrest, and later on she was taken to the ICU. She died after a couple of days, and the anesthetist and the surgeon had discrepancy in their notes. The timings of start and commencement and the ending of the surgery was different. The incidence of CPR and the collapse was not mentioned, but in the defense, both the anesthesiologist and the surgeon mentioned it. So what is true? Are the OT notes true, or the medical records true, or the defense true? Both the doctors had not mentioned it, and the diagnosis of the patient was different from the surgeon and anesthetist. So because of all this discrepancy, and the signature of the doctor was not there. In our NABH, it is clearly said the doctors, their SNDT is very important. The National Commission judgment held, is it below the dignity of the doctor to put the signature? So the doctor at the hospital lost the case. It is not enough that if you take the consent, it is not enough if the consent form is complete in all methods. But the Supreme Court judgments, Samira Kohli versus Prabha Manchanda, clearly states that the consent has to be taken from the patient if the patient is awake, if the patient is conscious, if the patient is mentally sound, and if the patient is an adult. And in this case, wherein an 85-year-old lady was operated for cataract, and she was fully in her mentally sound, but the grandson of 32 years had given consent. Though the patient had taken only 50,000 for the cataract and she got N/5 vision, he had to end up paying 5 lakhs because the signature was that of the grandson. So that is the point of law. So let me tell you, when we defend, it is not just we go on the facts of the case, the patient did a good surgery, even the points of law. Let me tell you, the lawyers take it very seriously and they can win a judgment basis on point of law. So it is very important for all the hospital administrators, the doctors, the nursing to know the aspects of law, the points of law where you can go wrong. In Shyama Kumar versus Ramesh Bhai, wherein the surgery was performed, the patient lost the vision, the medical record was complete, consent, progress note, etc. Unfortunately, though, the case came for hearing within 2 years, the medical records was missing. And let me tell you, absence of medical records goes against your judgment. It draws negative inference. So please keep your medical records. Your discharge card is very important, wherein if you just tell them to come for a follow-up, but if you write something else, then it goes against you. In this case, after fracture forearm bones, after reducing it, the patient on the discharge card, the doctor said come after 1 month, but verbally they said come after 2 days for a check x-ray. If it is little malaligned, we'll again reduce it under sedation and set it right. But the patient went by the written documentation, came after 5 weeks, and there was malunion. They had to be done again. And therefore, the court said you did not document it in the discharge card, verbally saying it is not of value. So Sanjay Muta versus Jayashree Desai shows the importance of anesthetist, wherein the anesthetist given the induction, it was 98% SpO2. After a few minutes, it came to 62%. Then the anoxic brain damage. So the monitoring notes were absent. And on this grounds alone, the anesthetist was held liable. As I said, it is just masterly inactivity. The anesthetist doesn't have to do most of the time, but you have to have constant vigil. And in Apollo Hospital versus Satyanarayan, wherein the discharge summary and the transfer summary was not given in the time of transfer, and absence of it, and incomplete documentation, etc. The second hospital had to waste a lot of time, over 24 hours in diagnosis and starting treatment, and this delay caused the patient's death. Therefore, incomplete transfer summary or discharge summary or not giving discharge or transfer summary is an act of negligence. The third important cause of litigation, let me tell you, is the dead. The dead also cause problem. It is not just the living, because the dead have their own rights, and also the relatives of the dead then get up for it. For example, there are quite a few instances we have seen in the newspaper when and litigations, judgments, where you have to send it for the postmortem, refer to the police. They will give the no objection certificate. Who are you to decide we can give a death certificate in absence of a NOC for? The Assistant Commissioner of Police, which is located at all police stations today, is equal to the level of the magistrate. And when they say clear the body, you can go ahead. So you have to give the death certificate only if you are sure of the cause of death, and if you have substantive evidence to support the cause of death. You say bronchopneumonia, you should have your x-rays, you should have your findings, etc. Whatever cause you say, have the evidence. If you do not have the evidence, do not issue a cause of death. And if the case is to be referred to the police, please refer to the police. Please, let me tell you that waiver of consent for non-referral to the police, waiver of consent for non-referral for case of making a medical legal case does not hold water. It is against the law, and these sort of consent which are against the law are invalid in a court of law. In Renu Jain, wherein a patient who had undergone a CABG later on came and died of brainstem hemorrhage, and the hospital issued the cause of death, and they said no, it was a complication of surgery and the patient had not reported to police, wherein the National Commission clearly said that those cases which are to be referred to the police are those which of the road accidents, domestic accidents, when you are not sure of the cause of death, unexpected, unexplained death, sudden death, foul play, etc. And in this case, you can issue. So the Renu Jain clearly says when you have to refer, and in Arunaben Kothari, wherein the patient died during surgery while orthopedic surgery, and the patient gave the waiver of consent for no postmortem, no police case, and the orthopedic surgeon issued the cause of death. In this case, it was went against the hospital that you cannot issue a waiver of consent for non-referral to the police, for either for a police case or for referral for postmortem. That is in the law. The law is supreme. So where the law rules supreme, you have to refer to the police. And also the person issuing the cause of death should be the primary consultant and not anybody other than the primary consultant. That was also settled in this judgment. And of course, the other thing is interchange of bodies, which is happening. And in these two cases, both of them, that happened in the last 1 year, where the judgments came, where 2 people died, the patients were seen at a distance, and somebody else's body was given by the mortuary keeper. When the second person's relative came to collect the body, then in that case, they did not take it. They knew it was a wrong body, and compensation of 1 crore was awarded because of mental agony. They were unable to perform rites on that grounds alone. So one has to be very careful. In Banerjee versus Mukherjee, two patients were admitted for COVID. One was transferred to another hospital because of complication, but with the case papers of the other. So this identification, now this WHO form, all this patient identification, etc., is very much there in your NABH. So you have to have your patient identity, your tag band, identity band, check the number, check the name, etc. So all these things to avoid this sort of an issue, like avoid the wrong surgery, wrong person, wrong thing. And in this case, the wrong person went to the hospital with the wrong papers. That person died, and they declared Banerjee is dead. But Banerjee was recuperating here perfectly. So after the when Banerjee's death, funeral rites, he comes back alive because it was Mukherjee and Banerjee were interchanged case papers. Again, there was award of compensation. So please check the patient identity before you do anything, and also handing over bodies also at that time. The next common cause, which is hardly the doctors are bothered because it doesn't affect them. It affects the administration, and this is the primary liability of the hospital. But for the act of negligence of the nurse or the doctor or technician is a secondary liability. These are the primary liabilities which directly come to the hospital and the doctor. It is not a case of medical negligence. It is a case of direct hospital negligence. Like in the case of Rashmi Tandon versus NM Medical Center, wherein the patient had a successful renal transplant and the warmer was on. And after a certain time, when the warmer should have been put off, but it was constantly on, and the 4 fingers got burnt in the theater, and she came out of the hospital with a successful transplant minus 4 fingers, administrative negligence. In PJMR versus JJ Pal, wherein a biliary stent was put after ERCP by the hospital, the patient died after some time, and the relative said something was put in, some instrument, and therefore the patient died. And the court asked what was put. They said it's a stent. And then the patient, the judge said maybe it is something which is not valid, and maybe what is the validity. So they were asked for the validity. The material department had to show the date of expiry. They did not have the register of date of expiry, and this judgment was in 2013. After this, then it 2016, and therefore after that it came that all the stents you have to record the date of validity, date of expiry in your store book, in your medical record. Give the sticker to the patient in the discharge card, like in your NABH you have discharge card, log book, OT book, you have to stick the sticker. So all this came after the judgment, wherein now intraocular lens also, there were a lot of 50-60 cases which came up in Bombay. I know, because there was no expiry date, lot of issues happened, and orthopedic implants, etc. So now implants, you have to keep the sticker. This is administrative negligence. And Mazumdar versus Ram Batra, this is about facility and safety. The National Commission, Supreme Court has clearly said safety and facility responsibility is that of the hospital. In this case, the patient was suffering from dengue, high fever, delirium, 104 degrees temperature. In the middle of the night, he went for the nature's call. And when he came back from the bathroom, and then he was about to go to the bed, he thought it's a door, and it was the window. He went out through the window thinking it's a door. He fell down. This was the second floor, fell down on the ground, broke his bones. He did not die. He was brought back. His sister was sleeping next to him. And after the incident, when they went to the court saying that there was not inadequate nursing supervisor to take care of the patient's safety and facility, the Supreme Court clearly said patient safety and facility is direct primary responsibility of the hospital. You should have enough nurses round the clock. Just because a patient relative is next to him, that doesn't mean the hospital gets away with negligence. Hospital should have kept their nursing vigil round the clock around these delirious patients, etc., who need it, and therefore directly now safety is responsibility of the hospital. So that is again, that is another NABH issue. BS Roy, of course, that is a case everybody knows, wherein after a particular surgery, if you need post-operative ICU, you have to undertake surgery wherein the facility and infrastructure for the surgery is there. There are many daycare nursing homes, yes, but if you are not confident that the patient may not need ICU, do not operate it. Here in this case, after the in hysterectomy, the patient's things deteriorated. The patients, there was no ICU. By the time they should put another this thing of ICU, the patient died. And the Supreme Court ruled that because of the lack of infrastructure, so inspect the infrastructure. So infrastructure, like in Rashmi Fadnavis versus Mumbai Grak Panchayat, in this anesthesiologist went ahead for the surgery. I mean, she did not check. She thought routine hysterectomy, there will be no blood loss, hardly anything, and expert surgeon. But who has seen? Human body is not computer 2 + 2 = 4. Human body is a box where you cannot predict what is going to happen. That is what is human body. So suddenly there was a lot of bleeding. Even the surgeon's hand shakes suddenly. He may be the surgeon, 1 lakh surgeries, everything good. The 1 lakh, one surgery, something may happen. They all are humans. So there was a lot of bleeding. There was no blood. There was no ventilator, no nothing. And therefore, lack of infrastructure, anesthetist was also held liable. Hospital was held liable. And this is the way. If you refuse emergency cases, as in Permanent Katara Supreme Court, that's again hospital liability. Harjot Ahluwalia, Spring Meadows, wherein a patient needed oxygen, but there was a delay in oxygen by about 2 oxygen cylinders were empty. The hospital staff had not checked it. And brainstem, if you don't get oxygen for 3 minutes, this after 7 minutes it came, brainstem, the anoxic brain damage, the compensation was almost 35 lakhs in 1996. The hospital was liable for it. And in Mission Mercy, of course, wrong blood, frozen blood transfusion. And in St. Gregorius, again, safety factor, psychotic patient goes out and in the lobby puts himself, hangs himself to death. So safety facility is very important in quality also, and Supreme Court says it's a hospital thing. This is the 5th thing wherein mishaps accident. People, doctors and administration are totally unprepared. In NABH, we call it sentinel events. You see, and NABH clearly says about clinical audits and other audits and do a correction, preventive action and do repeated audits to see a improving. And this is the very basis of it. In this first case, Mission Hospital, the patient had a something was left in the abdomen. The patient complained of pain. Instead of doing investigation and treating it and operating it further free and resolving the issue, they just discharged. Patient went to another hospital. There was a gauze inside and they sued the first hospital. Same way in Doon Hospital matter, wherein there was extravasation in intrav, IV they there. Extravasation cellulitis does happen. It is a side effect. Nothing to get worried. Tell the patient it happens. Treat the patient. Drain the abscess. Do the patient for free. Explain to them and solve the issue. Instead of that, they discharged the patient, got scared, went to another hospital, IND done, abscess, etc., etc. And then later on gangrene, amputation, things got more complicated. This is the issue. But if you had recognized it in time, treated it in time, cellulitis and IND and abscess, everything would have got saved. Again, in another case where the tight plaster was there, why do you have to discharge the patient? That they go to another hospital if it's tight. Okay, see the patient, review, slit the plaster. Orthopedic surgeon should explain. No, they get scared, just throw the patient out, thinking patient will keep the mouth shut. Patients are smart. They are going to allege and put you into trouble. So these type of mishaps, you have to be very well prepared. Like these are similar to where you have the medical mishaps. Medical mishaps, please be ready. Administration should be ready. You should have your protocol, SOP, how to the causes could be any burn, slip, trip, etc. Wrong blood, wrong drug, medication error, sexual error, violence in hospital, always on the increase. Violence is increasing rampantly. That even during COVID time, sexual assaults are increasing. Death, disability, fall. So you have to be trained to face a mishap. Do the good medical record documentation. It saves you. Call the police. They will control the situation. And also the mob is controlled. If it's a police case which has to be referred, the body has to be referred, they take it over. Don't be worried. Counsel it. Waive off your fees. Do not give compensation. No, it gives a wrong signal. But waive off the fees. Please speak to them. Take to your consultation, speak. Don't show them I'm doing some miracle by calling them in ICU during resuscitation, etc. Calling to OT. There are some people who want to show off. No, that doesn't solve the problem. Don't call them there. They'll find 100 defects. Take legal help and behave with courtesy. Things may get resolved. So be confident. Maintain confidentiality. Please keep good relation with your colleagues, take the expert opinion, do your proper monitoring, see that competent people are appointed, avoid cross speciality, mixopathy, etc. You should have a good rapport, be careful, give respect to everybody, give respect to your patients, tell them about the risk, complication, etc. This says that the future value, this is the way in which Supreme Court is going on compensation. Suddenly compensation has increased. First a few lakhs was a thumbs up in the bar, and now then it was 40-50 lakhs. Today it is in crores. Why? Because in Krishna Kumar they find, after the Kunal Saha case, future value is equal to present value into 1 plus r raised to n, which is the inflationary value. So the length of the future life, the patient is just 25 years, may live up to 60, so take 35 years. Then also the what you call the factor is there, plus the amount the person is earning. If a person is say 60, retired, not earning, compensation may be less. But imagine if you're going to treat Ambanis, you be careful, or Adanis, because see, it all depends on how much you are going to, the person is earning. On that also the compensation per day, how much you are earning, because you should be able to then afford the compensation. So compensation also depends upon the earnings of the patient, the length of the patient's this thing, and the factor. So thank you very much for a patient listening.
You ended up very well. It was a tricky topic to handle, but you have covered a lot of aspects of it. So one of the questions that has come, is it required to register MLC for all history of fall at home and fall at hospital?
Yes, yes, yes. It's very, very important. Let me tell you, there are quite a few judgments wherein, see what happens, I'll tell you, it is a double-edged sword. You don't register a police case. Okay. Now, even transfer from another hospital, we have to register a police case, because otherwise you become liable for the side effects of the other hospital. Because if you do not register a police case, when the person dies, you're not going to refer to the police for the postmortem or the NOC. As simple as that. How are you going to dream ki mar gaya, then you will going to issue natural cause of death? You see, another thing, today the patient is good, kuch mat karo, police mein nahi jaane ka, formality nahi karne ka, ye karne ka, they all sweet talk you, we are purchased, we silly doctors in white coat, no, we are very emotional, we say, ha, acha relation, but tomorrow some, and they do their doctor shopping and they have some people, अरे पैसा कैसा निकालने का, they put the case. Then what you'll do, it's better to be safe, inform the police. What they do with the police in the police station, we should not bother, but our duty is to report to the police.
Thanks, madam.
Don't go away from the law. We are digging our own grave in trying to be very good to them and saying wavering all these things. You see, half the problem comes there in becoming too soft. Sometimes we have to learn to be like lawyers, don the black coat. They are very strict, and I like their profession, you know, and we like to be white lilies, but you know, we have to wear the black coat very often and show the.
Thanks, madam. No one can disagree on that. And thanks for your presentation, which was started with a lot of case reports. I think that those are helpful with evidence when we talk about with evidence.